tack.
Okay.
Hello everybody!
Hi everybody. Today we're going to talk about how we met. Somebody asked us how we met. I think it was Cody. So I know Kveta likes to tell this story, so I'm going to let her lead, and I'll every now and again I'll say something.
If I let you.
if she lets me. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a bit longer story, so I won't go what was previously, what was happening, but all I want to say, I lived for 20 years not even knowing there are such a thing, such a people as fruitarians. I just ate fruit because that's what I want to do, that's what I come up with throughout my own mind, and inspired by the Bible as well. I was reading then the Bible, and I'm still reading it, and actually thanks to Bible mainly I went on fruit, raw fruit, food only. And after living 20 years like this, and thankfully living in Australia with very tolerant people, so it was very tolerated by others, so I have it easy. And of course I got some fruitcake labels and stuff like that too, but I always thought it's funny because I understood I'm the one who is right, because I was the healthy one and they were the ones who were at the doctors popping pills, people. Anyhow, I suddenly felt, after so many years, I would actually like to meet some people who does the same thing. It would be great to meet those full of beans, happy people, you know, who don't experience any uncomfortable feelings within their bodies or even mind, because it's all joined together. So I tried to do it, which I skipped one way, which didn't work out. I will tell you that story some other day. And that didn't work out. So I said, maybe if I get on a computer, I may find somebody on a computer, because you approach whole world. So I went to computer courses, I got a computer, and first thing when after computer courses, I felt I'm ready to use it. I searched for fruitarians in Australia, and first link I could see was Mango's website.
Yeah.
I click on it, and because Mango was previously 4 years in Australia and he was writing stories, putting on his website, that's why he came like he is in Australia. And because I'm till today not very computer savvy, I didn't even realize he's not in Australia. You know, I believed that then when I found him, he's in Australia. Anyway, I opened his page, I started reading his articles, and I read about 3 articles from Australia. One was with the white cockatoo.
Yeah.
And the Mango's writings so touched my soul that I said, my God, this is my man. This is man for me. Even I wasn't looking for man. I just gave up on that. I said, that's impossible in this world. Because I could not be with somebody who doesn't eat fruit.
By the way, everybody, just to give you a perspective on things, it was around 2004 she did the course, and 2004 when she found me on the internet.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, continue. Yeah.
And so because the feeling was so strong for me, I could see, I was not familiar with websites or anything, I could see contact me there. So I clicked the button and I wrote the letter to Mango, I said. And funny enough, I don't know why I thought he lived in Lismore. I said, how is the life in Lismore? Blah, 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 short note. Mango didn't answer. I said, are you ignoring me? He said, no, I'm just busy.
Yeah.
He said, I'm not in Lismore, I'm in a Spain.
Yeah.
I said, oh no, I want some Aussie Fruitarian, because I want to just meet, I want to connect, I want to just, you know, be part of. And with some people on the same wavelength, you know. And so, anyway, since that letter, we wrote every day email, nice long emails for over 2 years. And Mango was throwing big obstacles constantly in my way to fetch him as my soulmate. So he would say things like, you know, I would never come to Australia again. And I said, why? He said, why?
Well, yeah. Kveta said that I was here for 4 years previously, but it was actually only 3 years. I was on a 4-year visa. I'd been granted a 4-year visa. And I absolutely loved the place. Actually, I wasn't living that far from where we are now, probably about another, as the crow flies, only about maybe 70 kilometres away. And I really, I fell in love with the place. I just felt like I'm at home. I really felt like this is where I wanted to be. But because of all the stupid visa restrictions and regulations and that, and I didn't have the courage to kind of just say, no, I'm just going to stay here, screw you, and you've got no moral right to be telling me what I can and can't do and where I can and can't live. I ended up leaving Australia, and I thought, if I came back and it was a temporary thing, or if I came back under the illusion or under the guise that perhaps I could live here and it didn't work out, I would be heartbroken, because I really loved Australia and I loved especially this area that we're living in. I just thought it was such a great place to be. So yeah, I didn't want to come back. I didn't feel like, I felt like it wouldn't work and that I would just be heartbroken and it would just be a waste of time for me, because I had my own plans. I was living in Spain. My idea was to be in Spain for a while and pick up the Spanish language enough so that I could then go to South America and travel around South America and find my home there, because that's what I felt like was my destiny. I felt like South America was calling me. I wasn't sure exactly where, but I was using Spain as a stepping stone to get the basics of Spanish under my hat and then take off to South America. So that's what I was planning on to do, doing, and Kveta threw a spanner in the works.
Yeah, but you also threw a spanner in my works, because my plan, I had also planned when I already had a driving license from years back, but that wasn't valid anymore in Australia, so I made a plan. I did renew my driving license.
You didn't do that till I got there.
Then Mango, please, teď nebudeme o tom debatovat. I made my driving license, and my plan was living in a car, which I done before, and just travel around Australia with few boxes of fruit, and that was, and mainly around this area, because I like hot weather, and I want to try all those tropical fruits I never had before. So I obviously never done that, because I met Mango, we keep writing, and everything looked like it never going to work out. But I believed it's going to. I never gave up. I always believed, regardless of the obstacles, I was confident. I knew one day me and Mango are going to be together.
She was pretty persistent. She would, you know, because to begin with, I must admit that I really didn't feel the same kind of connection that she did. She kept persisting. She would tell me that I'm her man, and I thought, oh, okay, and yeah.
Okay.
But I didn't. I wasn't emotionally invested at all, really.
Yeah, you
with
just didn't have that.
I didn't have it, yeah.
But I did.
But
And-
she did, yeah.
And I believe my intuitions, I believe my feelings.
Mm.
And this is something which never happened to me before in my life. And what actually also happened to me during the process of emailing, maybe 1 year after, I don't know exactly, maybe even more than that, I have a vision. I was in my room, in a living room where I was at the computer, and I have my computer in a little like indent in the room,
Yeah,
and
alcove, yeah.
yeah, and Mango was sitting there by the computer. I didn't see him clearly as this. He was slightly hazy, and he was sitting by the computer, looking in a computer, and then he got up from the computer. And no, first I saw him just sitting by the computer, yes. And second vision was Mango sitting by the computer, then he got up from the computer, walked towards me. I was standing in my room in a vision. He walked towards me and spread his hands for a hug. You know, he's our hugger guy, always tried hug to everybody.
I was bilocating from all the way from Europe to Australia.
Yeah, so I was amazed by that vision itself, and it only made my belief stronger. Mango is my man. There is obstacles, but I knew we're going to end up to be together, doesn't matter what, so it didn't upset me much. After 2 years and something, Mango wrote finally an email. No, I told him I'm going to Czech Republic, and from where, when to the end of time period I'm going to be there. And Mango said, let's meet in Thailand.
Yeah, I suggested that if she was going to Czech Republic, from Australia to Czech Republic, that we could meet in Thailand on her way over to Europe. So we actually arranged, well, she agreed, of course, she agreed straight away to the idea. And we arranged our flight times in and out of Bangkok almost precisely, so that she landed 1 hour before I did in Bangkok, so she was waiting for me at the airport. And when we left Bangkok 1 month later, of course we weren't in Bangkok the whole time, but when we left Thailand and from Bangkok 1 month later, her flight was 1 hour after mine, so I left her. So both times she was there slightly longer. Yeah.
So
But anyway, you want to, because she suggested at the end of our stay in Bangkok, sorry, I should say Thailand, because we travelled many different places. But at the end of our stay in Thailand, she suggested that I might come back with her to the Czech Republic. And you know, I was free. I wasn't doing much with my life. I was kind of working as a gardener in Spain, and which was very flexible. I could move, stay away as long as I wanted to. So I agreed, and she went on ahead to Czech Republic. I went back to Spain, and maybe a month later, I joined her. She says no.
1 week.
1 week. She thinks it was a week, but I think it was more than that. But it doesn't really matter. I met up with her in the Czech Republic. She came to pick me up from the airport, and we spent 2 or 3 months in the Czech Republic together. Yeah, so we travelled around. We got a car, and she showed me some of the countryside and some of her relatives. Introduced me to her and her friends.
Yes, that was nice.
Yeah, and then finally, at the end of the stay there, she said, "Would I come back with her to Australia?" And yeah. And of course, I didn't straight away. I mean, I agreed to come, but I was still very, very hesitant,
Oh, yeah.
uncertain. I'm not going to say that I was sure about anything. She was very sure. I think part of the reason that I agreed to it all was because she was so sure. I felt like, well, you know, I believe in signs. I believe in miracles and coincidences that aren't coincidences, and things that happen for a reason, and she was very persistent that she was the woman for me, and even though I didn't have the same feelings, I felt like, well, she seems to be intuitive, and she knows, I believed that she or I wanted to trust that she knew what she was talking about. And I was looking for a home somewhere in the tropics. So the fact that it wasn't in South America really wasn't such a big deal for me. I didn't mind. If it could work out in Australia, I felt like that would be great too. I just needed to be somewhere in the tropics. I was yearning to be somewhere in the tropics. And of course, as a European citizen, and I was holding 2 passports at the time, 2 European passports, there isn't anywhere really that you can go that's tropical in the world. The furthest south you get in Europe is southern Greece or very southern Spain.
That's not tropical.
And of course you've got places like the Canary Isles, maybe.
Are they cold?
But they're not really as fully tropical as tropical, mind you. We're not really. We still get colder winters.
No, this is tropic.
Yeah, it is the
But
tropic.
Canary
It is
doesn't
the-
have a really tropical climate. I don't
Yeah, I'm not really sure.
It's a
how there is.
subtropical.
Subtropical.
But doesn't matter.
Yeah. Anyway, so it fitted in with my plans in a way. So I thought, why not? I resigned myself. Just I'll go with it and see what happens. So a month or so later, I flew over to Sydney, and she had a little 1-bedroom flat that she was renting at the time, and we lived together in the flat there. And not long after, we applied for a spousal visa. Not a spousal visa, de facto visa, because we never got married. We're not married.
We are married, but not on a paper.
Yeah, we're not on paper. We don't believe in. Neither of us believe in the bureaucratic meaning of marriage.
In the papers
in
and
the papers,
stamps.
we don't believe in that.
We believe in spiritual connection,
Yeah, so
and not some.
we
don't need
yeah.
the paper
We don't need,
to
yeah.
tell us
Yeah.
we belong to each other.
So I call her my wife. She calls me husband. But we have no plans. We're never gonna go to some office and say, look, we're gonna get married, because we just don't.
It's
believe
just
it.
some silly ceremony.
It's a stupid ceremony.
Maybe you have to even apply for it. I don't even know.
You do, and it's all about control too. It's all about them knowing who's with who and what's going on.
They know everything anyhow.
And if it should ever happen that we do fall apart, you know, if something should happen like that,
No.
then we haven't got the issue of any paperwork that we have to get
fill
through, fill out. I don't,
Yeah,
you
it
know,
won't be difficult,
no.
problematic.
Yeah, no.
But I don't want to even talk about
No,
this.
we don't think that's going to happen, and we're happy together, and yeah. So Yeah.
So I just want to say too that it wasn't for me always easy.
Mm.
That mango was so
Reluctant.
reluctant, and even when we met and we traveled together, and by my point of view, I think we got along very well since day one, and that because of that, once I got really upset with Mango because he told me in Thailand we already traveled for a while that, even this is happening now, this is not a guarantee that we end up to be together.
Yeah.
And it in a way upset me because I could not understand his reason, but that was just my moment of impatience, and then I bounced back. So maybe through that time I got maybe 3 times upset that Mangos can't see what I see, and he's sabotaging something, which
Deliberately.
which we could have already even 2 years ago. But that's okay, I always snap out of those thoughts very quickly, and I was happy, appreciating for every moment I can spend with Mango. And so how is it now, Mango? Do you now feel that you belong, or you still have a doubt?
No. I'm incredibly happy that I made that jump of faith to come over here, because things have worked out so incredibly well for the both of us.
Both of us.
I feel like we're incredibly blessed to be where we are, and we count those blessings on a daily basis. So I feel like definitely it was the right thing for me to do, and I'm not somebody who tends to look back at things with regret anyway, because I think it's a waste of time. These are the decisions that we've made. This is where we are now. We're very happy with where we are now, and the birds are flying around over there. So it's
some interesting.
Yeah.
Keep going.
So I think I'm very thankful for Kveta for insisting, and I'm very thankful that I'm here. I'm just incredibly blessed.
So it all worked out beautifully. We in a way live our dream. We live our fairy tale. The world surrounds us, try to smash it for us sometimes, but we don't worry about that. We enjoy what we can while we can, and we cross the bridges when they come to us. We don't worry about tomorrow because today's have enough worries on itself, on its own, and I think he said it all without little details. But I also write a book. Everything in a book will be in a tiny little teeny weeny details.
And I'm also, people have asked me about my second half of my biography, and rest assured I am working on it on a daily basis. I'm very close to having completed it. It is more or less complete. I just keep filling in some little gaps, and then I've got to proofread it, and proofreading would take me a while anyway, but hopefully by the beginning of next year or even the end of this year I might be able to say I don't like to give deadlines because I've done that so many times in the past, and I keep missing the deadlines. So I'm trying to get it done as quickly as I can. I've actually feel like I've had enough of it. I don't want to keep on with it, but because I keep thinking of things to add, I keep adding them. But I'm pretty happy with it, to consider how it is. It took me quite a while to get the timeline, the chronology of things correct, because so many things happened within those 30 years that I'm writing about. Sometimes before I started writing, I was looking back and thinking, well, did this happen first or did that? Which order did things go in, and how was that? And there were things that I was really uncertain about how they could have happened, and they didn't seem to pitch in, but I know they happened. but eventually I pieced everything together through a lot of old letters, some emails in the last 20 odd years. Of course, emails helped, but I've also got a lot of I used to write a lot of letters to people, family, and their friends and family has kind of helped me realise or put together exactly what happened when. So I think that I've got it all good now. I've got it all down in chronological order, and I hope that you enjoy it when it eventually gets released, sooner rather than later.
Yeah, so it's exciting moment for Mango. He's finishing his book, but it's difficult to predict the ending because, you know, I write too, so I can relate to Mango, and in this way, because, okay, I think I have most of it written, so I'm starting reading it again, proofreading it again, and what happens? I'm back to chapter 1 about 10 times already, you know. Oh, I start from 1, 2, 3, and then I stop it for a while, then I go back from the start, and I'm tweaking and changing, so it's never-ending work. In a way, you have to stop yourself one day, so that's it, closing it down, publishing it.
Yeah. Well, I find that still with all my books. I can pick up the first one I wrote and start reading it, and then I think, no, I'll change this. It's had so many different revisions since I started it, because I'm forever like republishing it with even just one word I might change or add a comma or something. I'm always finding things that I could have said or written better. So anyway, I think that's just about who we are really, and we want things to be right. We want things to be very clear. Especially when I'm writing something, I don't want there to be any ambiguity. I want things to be really clear so that people don't say, "Well, what do you mean by that?" And because I'm that way, I will repeat myself an awful lot in my books. Because I want to get my message across, and I don't want to be misunderstood. Anyway, I honestly think we've probably said enough for today.
Yeah, and we fully skipped the topic too. We start talking about books, but that's all good.
We started talking about why we met.
Yeah.
How we met. That's what we.
And then it went to book writing.
Yeah, but only in the last few minutes.
Anyway, it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah.
We leave you, we love you, and we're looking for next time. We can't see you in a person, but in a way, I know I'm doing it for people out there, they're watching it, so we're sending you all a love, and take care, and give love. Don't be scared to give love to people, and even if they hurt you. Keep your distance, but love them.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.